The use of Tunas and Endeng in asking for help between nobility and non-nobility. As we know that Indonesia has so many distinctive cultures and languages, one of which is the Sasak tribe. The Sasak tribe is also called Lombok, which has so much culture and linguistic diversity. One of the famous languages is certainly polite and refined language, where this language is carried and still used today by the people of Lombok. But on the other hand, this language also has a value and history, namely the usage of refined language used by the nobility. Unlike the case with non-aristocrats, where the language usually sounds ordinary and is even considered impolite. But if seen in terms of use, language will be used as needed where the use of subtle language or not depends on who the interlocutor is. Therefore, as the time goes by and the times change, there are various opinions related to the use of Endeng and Tunas vocabulary differences in asking for help between nobles and non-aristocrats. The collection of various opinions was carried out by interviewing noble and aristocratic groups, where this interview aims to find answers related to existing problems, such as how does it affect nobility people's perception towards the language of non-nobility in daily activities, and the second is how the cultural factors affect the use of the language of nobility and non-nobility. Being human, of course, we have difference in opinion, as well as some narrators from nobility and non-nobility groups. But in this video, I will explain the conclusion from the interviews of nobility and non-nobility. The first is from the nobility. They argue that language will be used according to our respective needs. It is the same in their language as the noble class, where people believe that they will always stick to use polite language in communication as they have received and used from their ancestors. But on the other hand, they also argue that the word endang is not always a root vocabulary, but it depends on how and where we will use the vocabulary so that its use is appropriate and does not have a bad impact on the articulator.
The second is the answer from the non-noble group. After conducting interviews with non-nobles, they argued that the use of different language in the nobility and non-nobility causes the perception of the nobility to sometimes feel that non-nobles speak without knowing the existing cultural customs. Roughly, the nobility sees that non-nobles do not know manners, especially when talking to elders. But the influence of the perception of the nobility on the language of the non-nobility in everyday life, the nobility use subtle language, which is very different from the non-nobility, so that when the nobility interacts with the non-nobility, there will be differences in the discussion use, so that if the non-nobility mingles with the nobility, it can trigger the use of mixed language. For example, half the use of fine language and half the use of non-fine language. Therefore, just like what was said earlier, language will be used according to the needs of the speakers, so that language is able to provide good value and does not have a bad impact. From this explanation, the conclusion is this study discusses how the use of the words tunas and endeng in helping interaction between nobles and non-nobles. The results showed that the use of these vocabulary words was used in the same situation but with different vocabulary. From what has been explained, the word tunas is included in the fine sasak and the word endeng is included in the plural or ordinary sasak category, which is usually used by ordinary people or non-nobles, but not closing the possibility that Endeng vocabulary is considered impolite in interacting, asking for help, because as the data has been described that the vocabulary used correctly is considered polite, based on the context, situation, condition, and interlocutors. The study implies that use of language serves as a marker of social identity and reinforces social boundaries between the nobility and non-nobility. Furthermore, it highlights the significance of language variation in understanding the complexities of social relationships and power dynamics within Indonesian society. By examining the usage of Tunas and Endeng in asking for help, this research contributes to a better understanding of linguistic practice and social dynamics among different social groups in Indonesia. Further investigation into language variation can provide valuable insight into the intricacies of social stratification and the ways in which language shapes and reflects social interaction.